Jenny Butterfield here from Jenny Butterfield Designs. Just as a reminder, you can find me on my website at jennybutterfield.com. And today we're going to talk about the final design for Brooches for Human Connection during a global pandemic. And just in case you weren't here for last week's video, I kind of envisioned this project as a little bit more of an art piece than an actual piece of jewelry that you would wear every day. So I envisioned it. Actually, let me pull up my first little sketch here and you can see it for yourselves. So I kind of envisioned it as a set of brooches that could be worn by two people with 6 feet of silver chain in between. And again, I wasn't this is more of an art piece, performance piece. I didn't really envision this as something you could wear every day. But I mean, I guess maybe you could if you thought about it in terms of taking a walk with a friend or getting some social distancing, but also some human interaction going on. So this is the concept that I talked about last week, and so here's one of my preliminary sketches that I came up with, and I want to show you everything I found, what I'm thinking. I would love to get your feedback, so leave me some comments, let me know what you think. But yeah, so here's the initial concept: two brooches, which I would envision being worn like right over the center of your chest, connected by 6 feet of silver chain. Okay, and let me scroll down and zoom out a smidge so you can see all of my preliminary sketches at the same time. So here is a sketch of the brooches, and let me tell you what we're looking at, and then we can move on to more of the specific pictures. So this right here would be the front of the brooch. Since this project is about human connection, I kind of envisioned it as an envelope, and we'll talk about this more in a couple seconds, but it's hinged. So it's hollow. You can actually open the envelope, and I imagine there being little love notes or secrets or little messages written on paper that you can put in there and wear it. And they don't have to be secret. They could just be things you want to talk about on your walk. But they could be secret. I'm just saying they could. They don't have to be. They could. So again, here is the front of the brooch, which looks like an envelope. And here is the symbol that we talked about last week. Now, someone on Facebook suggested, hold on, let me wait for it to come up, that I might consider this symbol as well. This is a symbol for unity. And of course, we can see all the little people raising their hands in celebration and coming together. I enjoy this symbol and what it represents, but I opted to go with the symbol we talked about last week, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But here is the symbol we talked about last week, which will be on the front of the envelopes. It's called a five-fold symbol, and there are actually many different variations of the five-fold symbol. This one happens to be in the form of a Celtic knot, but there's also a Buddhist variation. Also, we see it in five-pointed star. There are many different variations of a five-fold symbol, and depending on which culture it comes from, each of the 5 circles or points means different things, but they all come together to symbolize like coming together, unity, like kindness, compassion. They're pillars of society. And basically that's what the five-fold symbol is. I opted to go with this because it has so many different variations around the world, but also because it'll be easier for me to create as a metalsmith. Because I envision, okay, I'm gonna get a little geek out. I'm gonna geek out on you a smidge for a second. Just bear with me. I envision the five-fold symbol on the front of the envelope in a metalsmithing technique called chasing and repoussé. And basically what that technique is, you start with a flat piece of metal, and through the use of tools, you bring a design out. So the leaf that you see in this design with all the veins and the nice dome shape you see, that all began as a flat piece of metal. and through the use of tools and skill, that leaf came out of the metal. I did not, this is another metalsmith picture. I did not create this leaf, just so you know. I just wanted you to see the technique so you knew what I was talking about. So I envision, let me get rid of that for a second. I envision creating this symbol and chasing repoussé. So all of the rings will be three-dimensional and come out of the envelope, but also I had a really nifty little thought that on one envelope, the design would be positive, meaning it would be raised off the top of the envelope, and on the other, and on the matching envelope, it would be in relief. So instead of coming up out of the metal, it would go down in. So if you put the two envelopes together, they would nest. The designs would nest inside each other. And that way that would also create some more tension there with the idea of connection, that they, even though they're separate, even though they're far apart, they belong together. So that's the other idea I had. So, and then this is why I decided to go with the fivefold symbol instead of the unity symbol, because I think I would have, again, this is totally hypothetical, but if I was going to make this, I would have an easier time getting those to be crisp and sharp and nice and then nest together nicely. I think if I tried to do this symbol in the chasing and repoussé and have them nest together nicely, I'm not sure I would get it. I'd be able to get it to nest as nicely or look as crisp. So that's why I decided to go with the other symbol that we talked about last week. Okay, so there's that. We talked about the chasing and repoussé. And now let me show you the chain that I decided to use possibly. So this, wait for it to come up, yeah. This is the chain that I wanted to put, the 6 feet of chain that I wanted to put between the two envelopes. And this is an actual necklace for sale right now. It was created by a metalsmith named Diane Shy. You can Google her if you're interested in, oh, no, revealed too soon. Sorry, I'm not exactly sure how that happened. Okay, so Diane Shy, if you're interested, Google her and you'll be able to see more examples of this chain that I'm about to talk about. And this chain is actually very fascinating because it's actually crocheted out of metal wire. This chain is created from a single ginormously long piece of wire, and it's crocheted and knitted, and this is the resulting chain. So since we were talking about unity and coming together and connection in a time of social distancing, I thought this chain would be a perfect example of something that would keep that theme but also be interesting and show the weaving. It would kind of mimic the fivefold symbol on the front. So that is kind of why I chose this chain. I personally have never made a chain like this. I learned about it when I was in art school, but I'm thinking it would probably take me like 10 hours to crochet a 6 foot length of this chain because I would be teaching myself and crocheting at the same time. So it's a complicated chain. It's complex. It's interesting. But if you want to learn more about it, Google crochet silver chain and a lot of interesting stuff comes up. Okay, so that's the chain. Oh, let me talk to you about, okay, so that's the front. We've covered the front, and down here I talked a little bit about how the envelope will be hollow and hinged, and I just wanted to show you. So this is a necklace I made, oh my gosh, many years ago. I would say like maybe 10 years ago now, 9-10 years ago. But the reason I wanted to show it to you now is because it has a hinge. So this, if you think about this, like the envelope, it has a hinge, so it'll open. So you can open up the front of the envelope and the notes will be inside. So that is how I envision that working. And I don't really envision putting any type of clasp on the front of the envelope, mostly because I feel like once it's closed, gravity will take care of that. Also, I can make the hinge tight enough instead of like, some hinges are loose and they're supposed to be, and I could make a hinge that's tight enough that it would just stay closed. because gravity wouldn't be working against it or trying to open it. So that's what is going on right here. There'll be a hinge, so the front of the envelope can open up like an actual envelope, and you can put any sorts of little encouragements or notes or sayings or pictures in there, and you can have that with you right over your heart. And then, so here you can see this is the hinge because this is the back view. So this is the hinge. And then I wanted to highlight this brooch closure. Oh my gosh, because I love doing the double stem closure. That's what this is. So I wanted to show you guys because with brooches, bracelets, any piece of jewelry, the part that wears out and breaks the fastest is any part that moves. If there's any connection, any moving part, that's where the jewelry is most likely to break first. So I love these double stem pin closures because they don't really have any moving parts. And since it's double stemmed, it is so stable. Like you can put this on and it doesn't like move around as much. It's like really nice and stable. This is a brooch I created again years ago. I don't even remember how old this thing is either because I made it so long ago. But I brought it to our session today because I really wanted you to see the double stem pin closure because it's really easy to make, really easy to use, and then it stays forever. I mean, the design on the front will wear out long before this thing breaks. So that's why I love the double stem pin closure so much. And so that I had an example, so I just wanted to show you what this would look like. Okay, so let me see. We covered the design, we covered the hinge, we covered the chain, we covered the back. I think that's all I had to show you to start. Let me get out of this. Is there anything I wanted to show you that I didn't? I don't think so. Okay, so let me pull up my final sketch with my Photoshop augments there. So now you can see this would be the design in chasing and repoussé. That means that the relief would come out of the flat metal. And this piece right here, the flap of the envelope, would be hinged, so you could actually open the envelope. And down here, I didn't really talk about this. Down here, I just like having connections. Like it would look really weird if you had this nice brooch with the chain just kind of stuck on there somehow. So at least I think it would look kind of strange. So I put like a little bit of a connection here that the chain would fit up into, and that way your eye would be less jarring to the eye. It would make more sense and also more stable for the longevity of the jewelry. So here's our design, chasing the repoussé. Here's our 6 feet of chain coming down and connect to the other brooch on the other side. And then I just did the reverse of the design, so you can, again, the idea that on one side, on one brooch, the design would be coming out of the metal. On the other brooch, the design would be going into the metal, so they would nest. They would come together very nicely. And there you have it. I mean, that is what I envisioned for our set of brooches for human connection during a global pandemic and social distancing. I would love to hear your comments. If you wanted to see something different, I could always try again. And let me know what you're thinking for next week. Like, what kind of designs do you guys want to see? Because I have millions of ideas. I can keep coming up with them all, but if you guys want to see something specific, leave me a comment and I'd be happy to pick that up and run with that next week. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Jenny Butterfield of Jenny Butterfield Designs. Website is jennybutterfield.com. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram at Jenny Butterfield Designs, and you can find me, Jenny Butterfield Jewelry, lies. Instagram and YouTube at Jenny Butterfield Jewelry, and Facebook at Jenny Butterfield Designs. Thanks so much for your love and support. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next week, Monday at 2 p.m.